Uncle Thor here. We're going to talk about the Mannar Rune and what I call false face, or being false to yourself. And it's a problem that happens a lot, in matters of identity, that we're told to be certain things. Family puts pressure on you. Maybe mommy wants a scholar, daddy wants a football player. You're too awkward to throw the football, and school makes you mind numbing. You hate school, but here you are. Family puts these pressures on you. Society puts pressures. Other people put pressures. Things like this one, be nice. But nice doesn't really work. There are some very cruel people who are nice. Being good doesn't necessarily mean being nice. It means being true to yourself. And sometimes you have to awaken to that true nature and accept it, especially if it goes against the wishes of your family or the people around you who really don't understand. Independence comes at a price sometimes, and you've got to be able to stand your ground, especially against the people who've been pressuring you your whole life. I had an incident where, my adoptive mother, she wanted a scholar and a saint. I wasn't going to be a scholar. I hated school. I have the curse and blessing of high IQ, and I found school mind-numbing. And I just atrophied in there. And as far as being a saint, are you kidding? No way. Well, she was, Christian type, wanted saintly and nice. And when she got up, popped the devil. I still feel good about that. These expectations placed on you. Now, I'll tell you a little of my own story where it hit me right in the face. For several years, I was living on the edge, on the wild side, you want to call it, playing both ends of the law, call it what you will. A member of Local 13, Villains, Thieves, and Scoundrels Union, you guess which one or two. And that's what I did, and I decided that stuff had to end. The partying days and the fun was over. Time to clean up my act and do something serious. So in the course of things, I'm pretty much mellowing out. Things are getting better. One of the neighbors said, "Oh, we know a girl we want you to meet. She's a nice girl, a family girl, and I figured, okay, let me at least meet with her and see what she's like." And it was very novel. I had never dated anyone like this. Most of the gals were not family girls that I had gone out with. Some of you may have heard me talk about some of the crazy Irish girls and stuff. Well, yeah, that was basically where I was at. So I meet her and I start dating her, and it was very different. It was very interesting. It was almost like, what is this, Leave It to Beaver or something? Very different lifestyle. Her family was very different. My family, there had always been active hostility between me and them, going back till I was 8 years old. And this was all very nice and all, and I started falling into it a little. And she was a person who liked to do favors. She was a people pleaser. And I bent to accommodate her, but then that day came when I snapped right back to who I was. And I had to end that relationship. Because nice and that kind of thing wasn't me. It's not about being nice, it's about being true. And that kind of nice doesn't work for me. And this was a slap in the face as to my own true nature to remind me. I'm not the scoundrel that was running around getting into all sorts of mischief anymore. But I'm also not the white picket fence and nice. And maybe you've run into the same thing. Where these people have expectations. When I was a substance abuse counselor, I used to run into it with the AA and NA people. There were people who said that going to the program, you were supposed to be a changed person, and they would tell these people, be nice, be polite, be forgiving. In other words, told them to be nice, when the real advice they should have said was, be true to yourself. And so they found it hard to be this kind, gentle, loving, forgiving person when it went against their nature. And some of them almost relapsed over it. But when they got to the fact that they don't have to be that person, they don't have to be this model goody two-shoes person, a lot changed for them, you know. Then they could accept themselves. And so that's the thing, self-acceptance, instead of fitting into the mold. And I know a lot about molding. I cast a lot of metal in the garage. I have all kinds of molds. And some things, you know, you fit into the mold, you pour the fluid, and the mold assumes what you pour, like I use molten metal alloy. And when it cools, it assumes the shape of the mold. But what if you don't fit that mold? What if that's not you? Why try to mold yourself into something that goes against your very nature? I'm not saying to be bad, to be cruel, to be malicious, not by any means. But I'm also saying you don't have to sit there and be nice when it grates against who you are. And that's an aspect of Mannar, is that until you deal with who you really are, you're going to find friction, you're going to find trouble, and sometimes you have outbursts immediately, and sometimes it takes a long time before this backs up and boom, there you are. You know, I had a friend named Eddie. Eddie had been into heroin back in the 70s and early 80s, and he got clean. And that's when I met him, was after he had gotten clean. And what he tried to do was resume his old life with his wife and his family and everything. And he found out something, that he couldn't do it, that it was better for him to stay separated because he wasn't that kind of person. He wasn't that kind of thing. There were other people he was better suited to, other lifestyle he was suited to, you know, different women than what his wife was like. And that realization just dawned on him one day, and of course he couldn't wait to get a hold of me and say, hey, I got to talk to you about this, because to him it was a great revelation that no, he wasn't that person, he was someone else, and that's who he should try to be. And that made him happy. And some folks look and say, you gave up all this for that? But that's what made him happy. That's where he fit. You have to find where you fit, or you have to make a place for yourself. Because for many people, there isn't a preset place for you. There isn't a preset personality type for you. You have to be you. And it takes time. You have to pay attention to your feelings. You have to pay attention to things that kind of revulse you a little bit. You people, oh, he's so nice and so kind. Oh, get me the fuck out of here. Oh, that sort of thing. That's not the person I am, and maybe that's not the person you are, but maybe it is. So you have to be true to yourself, like Shakespeare said, be true to yourself. And like the Greeks said on the temple, know thyself. Get to know yourself and know what you and who you really are. And you'll find that when you are comfortable with who you are and live according to who you are, not who society tells you to be, not who mommy and daddy tell you to be, not who other people around are telling you how to be, when you are true to yourself, wow, you know, it really does make a difference. It's a pleasure. So again, the false face has to go, and Mannar urges us, screams at us to be true to ourselves. It's not easy, but again, this relates to what we talked about before. Independence, self-reliance, empowerment. You have to empower yourself. You have to be self-reliant. You have to be independent and willing to stand up to the views of others and not to cave in. It's hard sometimes. There's a lot of pressure. But if you stay strong, you'll get there. It's all a matter of there are times when you got to put yourself first. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't take care of anyone else. Be true to yourself. This is Uncle Thor. Have a good one.